Okay, good. Okay, thank you very much for coming here, for joining us at this press conference following the third trilogue on the anti-coercion instrument. I welcome the rapporteur for the anti-coercion instrument and the chair of the Committee on International Trade, Mr. Bernd Lange. Mr. Lange, you have the floor.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And also from my side, thanks for joining this press point. Indeed, we are living in a world where we see more and more that trade is used as a weapon to force countries to change their policies. And therefore, the European Parliament requested a new instrument. We requested this in October 2020 with a clear perspective that we need more defensive instruments to defend our economic and political interests in this field of weaponizing of trade and investment. The Commission made a proposal, and for me it was not really a wonderful proposal because there are some elements which are not really clear, and there was a lot of room for maneuver of the Commission. So I really decided to sharpen this proposal. For example, with a clear timeline. So in the proposal by the Commission, there was no timeline at all, and such an instrument should not lead to a procedure for time ever. So we need this instrument in a timely manner. And I introduce also some other elements. For example, also clear definition, what coercion means, and also what target of economic coercion could happen. So, for example, we really made clear that coercion could really be focused on a particular act, which is also covering expression of positions, like the resolution of the European Parliament, and not only a specific legislation or political activities. So sharpening the whole exercise. And then we saw the Council position, where my feeling was that this Council wanted to weaken down the proposal because, and that's no secret, the Council was not really happy about the instrument at all. Back to October 2020, it was a clear request from the European Parliament to have a common declaration where this instrument was requested, and some member states were really skeptical about that, and now they really try to water down this. So I read in the press this was a danger that this would be a water pistol. I would say the risk would be to have a teethless tiger, and this should be not the outcome of such a discussion. So therefore we really discussed with the Council quite intensively, and in this third trilogue until 4 o'clock this morning, so this was really a tough discussion. So at the end of the day, I guess we got a lot of elements which we introduced to sharpen the proposal. So we have now clear scope, clear definitions, what coercion is, what the target is, what the union interest is, and we have a clear procedure, what is happening under which criteria to get a determination of coercion, how proceed. And in all the stages of this procedure, the Parliament is clearly involved and informed so that there is no, let's say, room of maneuver in a black box. And then, beside this sharpening of the procedure, the timeline is also in. Now we have a timeline which really limits the whole exercise for 1 year. Even this is quite long. And I hope this maximum timeline will not used in general, but it is a clear signal that this will not lead to a never-ending story. And beside the clearness in the procedure, in the timeline, in the definitions, we have also a clear basket of countermeasures if there is a coercion, economic coercion. And this is also important, and as you know, the Council wants also to limit the basket of countermeasures. But I think we should really have a basket which is not defined as a specific reaction to a specific coercion. Because then, of course, a country using coercion could calculate which measure might be the answer to my coercion. And this should not be the case. We should have the flexibility to react in a specific case with a specific measure. So we have, of course, the traditional measures like customs in, but we have also market restriction, specifically on chemicals, on SBS, so agriculture products. We have the export control in, so this might be also a heavy instrument. And we have also the IPR in, so we can really look to disrespect IPR regulations, so for design or whatever. And this is really economically heavily weighted, and therefore we have also the possibility to do it. And then, of course, also for us important was to reflect that, of course, the people on the ground, the companies on the ground are affected by a coercion. So we need also to look for reparation of the injury. And this was also one of the key elements of the Parliament, and we introduced this as well. So there is now a framework for the reparation of injuries. And perhaps some single items. So it's, of course, also important that we have a clear competence inside the Commission. The original proposal, it was not clear who is competent for that and how the procedure is followed up. Now we have a single contact point where the competence lies. So there is the clear obligation for follow-up the legislation, but also the application and also the coordination between different units of the Commission. So I guess this is also important to make this instrument workable. We have now an instrument which is not a teethless tiger. It's really a tiger with teeth. It's really not a water pistol, it's a gun. And sometimes it's necessary to put a gun on the table, even knowing that it is not used day by day. So that's also clear. This instrument is the last resort. We really want to avoid coercion. We want to have communication with our trading partners to solve problems. But if there is no possibility, at the end of the day, we have the possibility to defend our economic interests by this instrument. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Lange. Are there any questions? Yeah. Could you please state your name and your media? First, I think it was you, Philip.
Philip Blankenship of Reuters. Clearly, there is one obvious case of coercion, which, of course, is China regarding Lithuania. I just wondered if it would be your understanding that this measure would not be for such a case as like an existing case, and would only be for future instances, and maybe you can give some sort of idea about any other possible uses of or possible actions by third countries which this instrument might be used for.
I'm not sure that it's only an instrument for future cases. So let's see how the development will be in this case. And I guess this is really a case of coercion using trade measures, stop in export, to force Lithuania to change the respect of the Taipei representation. No, let's see. And secondly, of course, we have several elements. And this is coming really more or less day by day. So now we have also, in case of China, the Dutch government decided not to export production machines for advanced semiconductors, and there's a discussion inside China if there will be some retaliation measures to force the Dutch government to change their mind. But also our big ally, the United States, made some comments that they want to establish some additional tariffs on European products if we are establishing a digital tax. So there are a lot of discussions worldwide where countries are thinking about using trade and investment measures as a political weapon.
Yeah, please.
Hi, Janusz Schallenbach from Euractiv. Just following up, would you argue the tool should be used now in the China-Lithuania case? And then maybe could you take us through, you can take a fictional example, like how would this process now work if a country sees itself coerced? Who would act when and who would decide what?
Indeed, of course, all possible coercive measures should be then under investigation, also this case. So, first of all, the Commission could start an investigation by themselves or by a request by a serious resource, like the European Parliament or the Council or some other sources. And then they have 3 months time to investigate, and then they should present a decision for the determination if there's a coercion or not, and then the decision should be taken. And afterwards, we have some months for discussing the concrete measures. I guess we agreed on 6 months, if I'm right in my memory. And after 6 months, it should be clear which measures we will take. And then, of course, after the decision of introduce countermeasures, then, of course, these countermeasures should be implemented as quick as possible. So that's the procedure. So, of course, now I guess there will become cases which will be put forward to the Commission to start the investigation, no doubt about it.
Then you, yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Finbar Birmingham from the South China Morning Post. My question is about, you mentioned in your opening about that this could be used in response to retaliation against European Parliament resolutions. Do you have anything in mind, any concrete examples of governments who may have retaliated in a way that would require the use of the ACI specifically to a resolution?
Not yet, but you know that we have some members which are under sanctions of foreign countries, and at the moment there is no economic coercion using trade and investment, but who knows? Huh? So it was really important for us that this should be not only focused on a legislative file, it should be on policy in general, and therefore we have now a huge opportunity if there will be also used trade and investment for coercion in policy space.
Thank you. We have one question from a remote participant, Léa Marchal. If you could press your speak button. Yes, we see you, but we don't hear you yet. We can't hear you yet. If you press the speak button. She'll try again. Okay. We still can't hear you.
And what about now?
Okay, now it's perfect. Go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. Sorry, I had to change the source. So, Léa Marchal for Agence Europe. I have a clarification question on the timeline you mentioned. So, the Commission has 3 months to investigate and present a decision. And then could you confirm that the Council, which I understand has to give its consent, has 3 months to do so? And so I think we would reach the 1 year timeline that you mentioned with the 6 months to impose the measures. And also a second question on the calendar towards adoption. When do you hope to have this final trilogue with really the definitive agreement and the text on the table, so that we have an adoption maybe for the summer? Is it maybe too ambitious for you, reaching something by the summer? Thank you.
On the first part, indeed, the decision should take in 8 weeks, so also quite limited. And if you calculate everything together, then you reach 1 year. But as I mentioned before, let's really push to have it quicker. So it is really a reaction to actual coercion. And therefore, because of this timeline, we could also delete our idea of an urgency procedure. So this was a little bit give and take. We want to have an instrument which reacts quite quickly, and therefore we agreed on this timeline, and therefore urgency procedures are not necessary. So everything is fixed, so there is no necessity for further negotiations. So we agreed really on detail on all the elements of the text. So just now finishing the fine-tuning, and then the next trilogue will be only half an hour saying how wonderful the legislation is. I will do it. I'm not sure that the Council will do it, but by the way, you saw perhaps the picture of yesterday evening after or this morning at 4 o'clock. You can, I guess, see in the face of the participant that the reaction on the outcome is quite different between the institutions. So, nevertheless, this will be really short, and I hope indeed that we can finalize this even before the summer break. So it's not such a big legislation. Of course, the value is quite big, but the volume of letter is not so big, so the translation would be also not so complicated. So I guess we can move ahead quite quickly.
2 more questions. First you, and then Rob.
Yeah, just for a clarification question. The Council will have to give its agreement after the first work by the Commission, when the Commission says it's a coercion or not a coercion. But does the Council also have to give an agreement on whether to take whether and which countermeasures to take, like at the end of this year?
This is a comitology procedure. So Commission and Council, and it's normal comitology.
Sorry, which one?
The second one.
The second one is comitology. Okay.
I was going to ask about the fact that you said the Council doesn't want this in the first place, but yet the decision-making power will rest with the Council as to whether coercion has taken place. Are you a bit worried about that? Obviously, also on QMV, but do you trust that the Council will, act in good faith if they didn't want this in the first place?
Yes, of course. This is not the most liked element of the compromise, no doubt about. But there is some reason behind, because if there is a coercion, then of course all member states are affected if this leads to conflict with a third country. But this is a specific case, and therefore we created some conditions around this. So first, there is a three-party declaration that this decision-making process is unique and only linked to this legislation, which has some elements of common foreign and security policy. Secondly, we have the deadline for the decision process. We have the clear obligation for explanation what is going on, and we will be in the process. So the Parliament will be in the process, and I guess this will give also some pressure for the decision. And it's quite unique that we as Parliament will be informed on the decision by the Commission prior to the Council. So we will know a little bit more about the decision-making process and can, of course, then push the Council. By the way, this is quite innovative, and perhaps we have to rewrite the treaty. Huh?
Thank you. Are there any more questions? I don't see any. Online, there are no questions either. So I close this press conference. Thanks a lot for coming. Thank you, Mr. Lange, for coming.
Thanks a lot
next
for the
time.
questions. Thank you.